在正面，然后那一边也是，就是我们是，好像有点小声啊。拉音，旁边没有反对。尤其以前收，以前收你的那个颜色都非常淡，所以全部都有。所以以前在的地方的公司也是，他们开始直接在，那他收你的差别，那尤其以前业绩好。现在它是比较像这一台，还是给我们看。对，标配。对，但是如果真的不够卖，就是我们其实有。对，才20块。还可以。可以4个1吗？
这个吗？前面的。
试音，有吗？声音可以吗？可以。声音可以吗？可以。OK。传音麦克风测试，记者提问麦克风测试，可以。记者提问麦克风2，麦克风2，麦克风2。
但是懒就一直带着，而且是前阵子就已经开放骑车都可以脱口罩。拿来拿去，拿手上拿，每个人是从在眼睛在拉来拉去。被制约了。 对，因为
Why are we communicating when we're all in the same room? I will aim to send the text version with that story. I will aim to. Fabian sent me his stuff. I'll aim to send that to our desk on Monday with the instruction, as usual, please coordinate release of visuals. Well, I don't know when they've sent it. You know, they have to get it all together. Yeah, that's right.
所以应该不要有人顾，对不对？
但是会自己开，你看我看一下活动。
个人先开两下个人。一个人的话也是，为什么？就一个人嘛，不是说他只有一个人，因为开两个人。可以突然间休息，真准时呢11点，想不讲10点半就到了。那时候用什么的？不会用。那你怎么来？有没有戴安全帽？没有。戴安全帽还要再过去啊？那你回机车那边去修车？今天去修了。今天去修了。昨天就坏了。哦。坐军车来，是开车。辛苦又波波马不肉牛煮的，不行没有。我都忘记有哥哥三家都没有，你们3家都没有，4家。 比较不方便的。
解忧情，
因为这个东西那么多人去，昨天晚上看一堆，
这边借。快了。
我知道的话，看他们菜鸟。
哦，拿三是
他黑啊，
在地坚强，
太黑不能换。我们摩托车过来，是马上切接，
快什么？
钱这样子，币
哦，
严重。
昨天那个摇币是要冒着要参引擎啊，有料吗？为什么？
他说等，
对啊，就是问这有没有料。
其实我是老等懒得用，因为昨天他本来是说讲说什么，
那你就换一家了，换哪？
车都在那边的，我怎么换？
因为他慢慢拆，
他本来跟我说传动走，然后那个他就换，他就不行，然后他就真的拆那个，然后他看一看，他说哎这个必坏掉，
应该是带动那个气缸车的。几年的车，他那是那个生快，哪个牌子的？光阳还是中联？怎么来的？
车不止4、5年，
哪一型车？哪一个型号？有一瓶15年，他只是就那一台，但他那台比我
他那个台比我久，连续新闻，
赶他骑超久，不是我不要说年份，他骑的每次都环岛带你去，骑的比你多，
他那个旧的啊，
旧的比较耐操，
对啊，可是新款修就麻烦。
新款，那你也是最近才买的，没几年。对啊，长城也是没有买没几年。
那个旧了吧？他还至少10年。我看到型我就知道，他是我前一代的型。我那台都已经出大概应该7、8年。
那为什么还会有这种通病呢？
不知道。
牵到车我。
下午有没有法律？
没有，手工脚位，回家，
那个秒记得
好重。明天在上夜班才休息。
那车很久，
真的啊。
OK，各
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends of the press. We really are very honored to have the presence of the Honorable Alicia Kearns. She is a member of the UK Parliament, and she is also the chair of the Council Foreign Affairs Committee. And also, with her, we also have important members of the delegation here. So allow me to really also quickly to introduce some of the members here seated with us. And also, we have Liu Tuo here. He is the Deputy Secretary General of the Taiwan and U.S. Committee, also supervising the European Affairs Commission. Without further ado, so allow me to first really introducing and also inviting the Honorable to address the audience.
Good morning, everyone. It has been a real privilege to be here in Taiwan these last few days. It's 16 years since the last parliamentary committee delegation, and it has been a fantastic opportunity to come and have dialogue, because it is absolutely right that parliamentary democracies have that dialogue and that we're able to discuss our shared concerns, our shared priorities, and the importance of standing up for democracies. We in our committee are doing an inquiry into the Indo-Pacific, and as part of that, of course, the relationship with Taiwan is part. Our job is then to go back from this visit and to scrutinise our ministers and to question them about what the Indo-Pacific relationship looks like, what our relationship with Taiwan looks like. And so I'm very grateful to be able to be here to listen and to learn, and the Taiwanese government being very open in their discussion with us.
Thank you very much, Your Honorable, and we definitely need translation for these important words.
各位女士、先生、各位媒体朋友，大家早安！非常高兴这几天我和我的访团能够来到台湾，这是我们英国国会睽违16年再度来到台湾。我们非常高兴这次能够跟台湾方面进行非常多的对话。那因为国会外交确实是非常重要，所以我们这趟来是要进行许多的对话，谈一谈我们共同的一些忧虑，还有我们应该要着力的共同合作的事项。因为我们的目标就是要一起维护民主。那我们英国现在呢有这个倾向印太的政策，我们也知道在台湾在印太地区是一个非常重要的伙伴，所以在这趟之后，我们回到英国也会跟我们的政府还有各个部会的部长。督促他们，问他们说，英国对于印太区域的这个立场，还有与台湾的关系，未来应该要怎么样发展？最后呢，我们非常高兴这次来到台湾，能够听取台湾方面许多的意见，我们学到非常宝贵的这个课题，也非常感谢台湾政府非常公开坦率的与我们进行对谈。
Thank you very much. Now, with the permission of Madam Chair, we take some questions from the audience. 接下来看媒体朋友有没有对英国外交委员会Ben Hunter, Director from Reuters.
Thank you very much. Obviously, this visit is happening at a time of increased tensions between Taiwan and China. Taiwan is busy bolstering its defences. Part of that is Taiwan's indigenous submarine program, which the British government has supported, albeit relatively covertly. It has provided export licences, for example. During your meetings here, did you discuss defence cooperation between Taiwan and Britain, and what more Britain might be able to do to help Taiwan bolster its defences in the face of these threats from China? Thank you.
If I need to have a translation? Yes, thank you.
那么这次英国国会下议院访台这个时机点，正好面临台湾与中国之间的紧张情势越来越升高。那台湾也一直非常的努力要提升自己的国防能力，包括国建国造的计划。在这方面，英国也提供了非常多的支持。所以我的问题是，那在这个国防的方面，英国与台湾未来还可以有什么样的合作？那英国在什么方面可以更加施力，帮助台湾提升国防能力，以面对中国日益增加的威胁
？Thank you so much. Throughout the conversations that we've had here across all the different ministries, what has been very clear is that from the Taiwanese side, the priority is safeguarding the current status quo. It is safeguarding restraint and safeguarding stability. And that is what the focus of our conversations was. How do you maintain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific? And how can the UK play a role in that as a fellow democracy, and as a democracy that recognises that within the Indo-Pacific we have a greater responsibility now to step forward and support them. In terms of supporting specific efforts, we talked about joint threats. So when we talk about warfare, it's all about deterrence and preventing, as I said, about safeguarding. So we talked about the joint cyber threats that we all face from different adversaries. We discussed disinformation, and of course we discussed traditional military conflict. And we talked about how we as an international community work together to prevent, and therefore the importance of deterrence diplomacy. And yes, defence cooperation was discussed as part of that, because it should be part of a whole conversation that takes place. But the key and the core of it at all times is about safeguarding and maintaining the status quo.
Excellent, thank you. Was in the translation, but no.
那么我们这次访团来，我们跟台湾政府许多部会都有进行对谈。那我们注意到非常显而易见的一点，就是台湾现在最重要的优先工作，就是要守护现状，守护台海的和平以及稳定。所以在我们这次讨论当中，我们的主题着重在于怎么样维护印太区域的和平以及稳定。那么在这个工作上，英国可以扮演什么样的角色，来帮助我们的民主盟友尽到我们在印太区域维护和平稳定这样的责任。同时我们也谈到我们面临了许多共同的威胁，那要面对这样的威胁，很重要的一点就是我们要去做嚇阻威吓的工作。那我们面对这些威胁，包括网络攻击、假讯息的攻势，还有当然传统的军事冲突。所以我们国际社会应该要进一步去讨论怎么样合作来更有效的嚇阻可能的威胁，这也是我们对话当中非常重要的重点。那其中最重要的关键就是要保护并维持现状。
Okay, thank you very much. So now, okay, we'll take a second question. Yes, James, right? Yeah.
Thanks very much for your press. Rishi Sunak this week said the golden era of UK-China relations was over. Of course, some say that he's still worried about maintaining a good trading relationship with China. How do you think he's been receiving your trip here in Taiwan, and have you been in touch with the Prime Minister during your trip to Taipei?
So due to the extremely large number of cyber attacks that Taiwan receives, I did not travel with my personal phone. So I have been cut off from British politics, which might be the greatest experience that I have had for a very long time. So no, I have been unable to speak to the Prime Minister while I was here. But I do think that he is right, and that the golden era is over with China. But that doesn't mean that we have to cut off China. It does not mean that we do not work with China. But it is about robust pragmatism. I agree with him entirely. Pragmatism of the fact that we cannot cut off one of our biggest trading partners. Pragmatism in the fact that we are one economic global model, but also robust in that we have to put down red lines. So we will not accept illegal police stations operating in the UK. We will not accept the Chinese Consul General brutalising those who sought refuge in our country because of tyranny in China. And we will not accept other efforts to undermine our democracy and attacks such as those at Ed Lawrence that took place in Shanghai. So dialogue is absolutely crucial, because it is only in dialogue that you can set out red lines. But it is about pragmatism, and it is about identifying where we can cooperate with China, where we can coordinate with China, but also where we have to challenge them, and we shouldn't be afraid to do that.
Excellent, thank you so much. Translation.
那这个问题是英国首相苏纳克最近在他的演讲当中说到，英国跟中国合作的这个黄金时代已经过去了。那想要请问主席，这趟来台湾，英国首相的看法是如何？那这个来台湾的过程中有没有跟英国首相做沟通？那么主席的回答如下。台湾因为目前遭受到网络攻击非常严重，所以我这次来都没有带私人的手机，当然也没有办法跟我们的首相做联系。但是呢，我认为首相说的是对的，英国跟中国的黄金时代已经过去，但这并不代表我们要完全断绝跟中国任何的合作。相反的呢，我认为我们要用一个比较务实的态度来面对与中国的关系，毕竟中国是英国非常大的贸易伙伴。我们也要持续维持我们的经济，但是在这个过程中，我们要跟中方划清一个红线，划清底线，就是说我们不能够接受中国的这些警察在英国这样非法的去打压我们的民众，还有中国的领事馆在英国这样用暴力来对待来到英国的这些难民。同时我们也不会容许我们的民主受到中国的迫害。从在上海的事件我们就可以看到中国是怎么样迫害他们的人民。 那在这个当中，对话非常重要，唯有透过对话，我们才能够划清这些红线，并且用一个务实的态度还有角度去思考我们跟中国可以有怎么样的合作。
If I may, I just want to add one additional clarification, which is, it is often misunderstood by those countries who are not democratic that Parliament is sovereign. It does not report to the government, it scrutinises government. And so whilst I would perhaps update the Prime Minister when I get back on our visit, it will be in terms of scrutinising him and sharing with him what we have learned. But Parliament is sovereign and the actions of Parliament are separate to those of government.
那在这边我要特别补充一点哦，有些国家可能会误会，那其实我们英国的国会是非常独立自主的，我们的角色就是要检视我们的政府，所以这一趟回去呢，我跟我们英国的首相，我们也会用一个检视政府的角度去检视我们英国现在的这些政策。
Thank you very much. Thanks, James, Taiwan Plus, for your question. More questions? Yes, AP, Agence Plus? Yes. James, yes, please.
Hi. In a recent letter to the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, I think last month, you called for action, including potential expulsion of the diplomats involved in the fracas in Manchester, and also on the aforementioned so-called police stations. Has there been any response on that? Would be my first question, and then quickly, just a second question, reverting to James's comments on the end to the so-called golden era. Is an end to something like that realistic, or is any influence on Chinese behaviour realistic without some kind of economic decoupling?
On your first question, do you want to translate?
Would that be okay? Yeah, translation, please. Thanks.
那么想请问主席，在最近呢，您致函告诉英国的这个外交大臣，说要好好的来检讨中国领事馆在曼彻斯特这样子的暴力事件，还有中国警方在英国的一些非法行动。那想要请问这个方面有什么样的进展？那第二个问题是，中国跟英国的这个交往的黄金时期，真的有可能在现实上来到一个终点吗？那我们是不是还是要去考虑经济上怎么样发展？
So on your question about economics, for me it's not about decoupling, it's about resilience. And actually this is somewhere where we can work very closely with our Taiwanese allies, whether it be wind energy, whether it be semiconductors, whether it be so many wider areas, so for example biopharma and things like that. We will continue to trade with China. We have important opportunities there to trade and to work together, but we also have to be resilient, and that means supply chain diversity, and that means making sure that we establish relationships more broadly than we perhaps have in the future. In terms of the golden era, in diplomacy, if you don't have hope, you achieve nothing. And so we must always have hope and optimism, but we must also recognise that particularly with some relationships, they compartmentalise different aspects of engagement. So you can have a deep trade relationship while challenging on human rights or other aspects such as that, but also that you should not therefore conflate that if you can improve trade, you will therefore improve other actions and behaviours. And I think it was wrong, mistaken to look back and think that trade would result in a different foreign policy from China, given their ambitions and given their inherent structures and goals. But that doesn't mean it was wrong at the time in terms of the ambitions and the hopes, and we should never criticise people who are striving for better. In terms of the Consul General, if somebody comes to Britain and on British soil assaults and hospitalises somebody who is peacefully demonstrating, they should face the full front of the law. It is absolutely right that Britain, as a nation of rule and law, is investigating this properly and justifiably and independently of government. However, the Consul General has publicly declared that he was responsible. He has taken responsibility for his actions and said that he would do it again and that it was his duty to act. So my question is why it is taking so long to bring forward charges against him? Because I believe if one of my constituents had taken responsibility for such brutality, they would now have been charged. So what I would call on China to do is to waive diplomatic immunity for him, to allow him to face the legal system in a country which is governed by rule of law. And if not, the British government needs to expel him from the UK.
Very well said. We need translation. Thank you.
那谈到第一个关于经济的问题，我认为我们跟中国经济脱钩这个不是重点，我们要着重的是怎么样增强我们经济的韧性。这也是为什么跟台湾这样的伙伴合作非常重要。我们在许多的方面都有非常多合作的这个契机，像是风电、半导体、生医产业等等。当然，同时我们英国会持续与中国进行贸易，在中国也有非常多的贸易商机。但是我们要做的重点就是增加我们经济的韧性，这也包括了我们的这个供应链要变得多元化，我们要更多角化的跟各国经营我们的关系。那我相信这个我们谈到黄金年代已经过去了，但是在外交上我们一定要永远保持有希望还有乐观，这样我们才能够做到更多的成果。所以我们在维持贸易跟经济的同时，我们也可以去谴责中国在人权上面做的这些不好的作为。那我们不应该回头来缅怀过去的黄金年代，因为我们不能够再相信中国会因为我们的贸易关系而去改变中国的对外政策，因为我们看得非常清楚中国这个对外扩张的野心，还有它结构性的问题跟它的各种目标。同时呢，我们一定要继续保持希望还有乐观。那么关于这个中国领事馆在英国的领土上面对我们的这个英国的来到英国领土上面的这个人民进行这样的暴行，而且这些人是非常和平的去做抗争，但是中国领事馆却用暴力打压，这样子的行为是需要面对法律的制裁的。英国是一个尊重法治、法律的国家，所以我们的政府也在持续的进行调查这个事件。那么中国领事馆方面其实有说他们要单方面负起这样的责任，但是我就要问的是，为什么我们过了这么久，拖了这么久，还没有真的去起诉中方的行为？所以我这边也要呼吁中国要这个除掉中国领事的这个外交豁免权，让他可以受到我们英国法律的制裁，不然的话，我们英国应该要直接把他驱逐出境。
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Burns, for your question. Next question, how about from this aisle? Yeah, so yes, Yashi Novia from Central News Agency.
你好，我用中文提问。英国首相苏纳克日前曾经表示，英国准备好支援台湾对抗中国的侵略。请问访团认为，若中国对台发动侵略，英国是否应该对台提供协助？而英国的支援可能包含哪些方面？Any translation? Thank you.
So this question comes from the Central News Agency. British Prime Minister Sunak said the UK stands ready to support Taiwan in the face of Chinese aggression. If China wages war against Taiwan, does the delegation think the UK should assist Taiwan, and those assistance will come in what areas?
Ning Hao. My view is that what we have learnt very sadly over the last year is that the international community must stand ready to stand in the support of democracies in the face of autocracy. What we have also showed as international community is that we will stand by our allies, because we recognise to uphold the rule of law, to uphold the international world order, it is vital that we do so. But in terms of how we might support Taiwan, the goal is to prevent it getting to that point. We must prevent conflict. We must ensure that Taiwan is respected, and we must safeguard its sovereignty, safeguard the Strait, and safeguard all of those who live within Taiwan and wish to continue living in a democratic way. There is no question that Taiwan matters. And although we are separated by many continents, the reality is that 30% of global world trade goes through the South China Sea. And the reality is that the world's technological heart is essentially increasingly becoming Taiwan when you look at semiconductors and their importance within the global economy. So I think the message is very clearly that Taiwan has friends, and Taiwan does not stand alone. But we must all do everything we can to prevent any descent into conflict. But yes, Taiwan has friends who will stand by them.
Thank you very much. Translation. Thank you.
谢谢您的提问。那在过去1年，我们很不幸的，就是说我们知道了一件事情，那就是国际社会一定要准备好来支持民主国家一起面对这个威权国家的威胁。 那我们英国也会持续支持我们的盟友，因为我们都一定要一起共同来维护法治，还有以规则为基础的世界秩序。至于我们要怎么样支持台湾，其实最重要的目标就是我们要避免任何冲突的发生。我们要持续确保台湾在国际上受到尊重，台湾的主权能够持续，台海能够拥有和平。那台湾热爱自由民主的人民也可以持续维持他们的生活方式。我们毋庸置疑的知道台湾非常的重要，虽然我们台湾跟英国距离非常遥远，但是我们看到全球有30%的贸易量是集中在这个区域。那全世界的这个科技发展的重心也非常聚焦在台湾这边。我们看到台湾的半导体对于全球经济都是至关重要的。这次我们要强调一个非常明确的讯息，那就是台湾有朋友，台湾在世界上不是孤单的。我们一定会尽我们的所能，避免任何冲突情势的发生。最后，我要再次强调，台湾是有朋友的。
Thank you very much. So how about more questions from this side? Yes? Okay, Terry from Liberty Times.
Good morning. Recently, the UK's Minister of State for Trade Policy, Greg Hunt, visited Taiwan, and he proposed a UK-Taiwan Enhanced Trade Partnership, ETP. What is the detailed content inside the ETP, and what expected benefits would it bring to both the UK and Taiwan? Thank you.
Shall we allow translation? Thank you.
英国国际贸易部贸易政策副部长韩斯日前访台时提出了推动台英强化贸易伙伴关系，也就是 ETP。那请问这个 ETP 的详细内涵是什么？它对于英国还有台湾双边能够分别带来什么样的预期利益？还有台英应该要强化哪些领域的贸易合作？
My answer would be that I have the same question as you. And I'm sure that the International Trade Committee of Parliament will look forward to scrutinising Greg Hunt on his proposal. But what I will say is that it's very evident from our visit here that the will for deeper trade is absolutely there. The opportunities are significant. The fact is we have complementary economies. As we look to diversify, as Taiwan looks to diversify, we are natural allies for one another. And so I think, the fact that we have over 30 wind power companies operating here in Taiwan from the UK, that's the highest number. We have the opportunities to be the offshore wind power nations of this world. There are so many opportunities for trade and they want to deepen them, and I think the committee would welcome deeper economic trade ties, absolutely, but I look forward to Mr. Hans giving us all more detail in due course, hopefully.
Thank you. Translation, thank you.
这个问题问得非常好，我自己也很想要知道答案。那我相信，我们的国际贸易部会持续的来向我们的这个副部长韩斯去检视他要怎么样进行这个 ETP。那因为我们知道这个贸易有非常多的机会，而且台湾跟英国的经济其实是非常互补，而且我们双方都希望能够让我们的这个经济发展更多元化。那其中一个方面就是风电，目前呢，英国的风电公司在台湾有超过30家，这个数目是世界上最多的。那我们英国也非常希望在风电方面能够成为全球的佼佼者。所以呢，我相信我们这个英国国际贸易部还有外委会都会持续的去关注我们副部长汉斯他要怎么样来推动这个 ETP。
Thank you very much. I don't know whether there are other questions, more questions, because, okay, maybe we take last round because we know that the Honorable She has engagement. So we do last round and we do all together. We do Ben first, then James. Anybody else from this side? Questions? Okay, sorry, I'm not seeing. Oh, okay. Well, okay, then we do Cindy, okay? Yeah, we take all the questions now.
Thank you. Just a quick question about the Chinese embassy in London's condemnation of your visit. Obviously, China is never happy when any foreign visitors come to Taiwan. Before you came here, before you stepped foot on the plane, had the Chinese embassy already got in touch with your office, with the committee, and explicitly warned you there would be consequences of visiting Taiwan? Thank you.
Yeah, we take all the questions. Oh, sorry. Let's allow first translation of that, and then yeah. 我们先翻译的问题，我们请问。
那这个问题是想请教主席，还有您的访团，这次来之前，是我们知道中国大使馆伦敦在英国伦敦中国大使馆也对你们发出了这个谴责，所以我想请问，在你们登机出发之前，中国使馆有没有联络外委会的办公室，然后警告说你们如果来台湾会有什么样的后果吗？
James?
Right. My question is, in September, The Guardian reported that British MPs were in talks with Taiwan to provide Mandarin teachers to the UK as part of this plan to phase out Confucius institutes. I wanted to ask, was this a topic of conversation during your trip to Taiwan, and was there any formal agreement on sending Taiwanese teachers to the UK as part of this plan?
Thank you. Translation for the question, thanks.
那么之前呢，这个英国副部长来台的时候，也有谈到台湾可能会派一些中文老师到英国去教中文，借这个做法呢，能够排除掉在英国的孔子学院。那我想请教主席，这次你们来台湾有没有谈好任何正式的关于这个台湾华语师资到英国去的任何协定？
Thank you. And also Cindy, right? Cindy, Epoch Time.
我用中文发问哦，请问一下，那个英国 BBC 记者之前在上海采访那个白纸运动的时候，遭到中国的公安殴打。那这个中共的驻英大使郑泽光，虽然说有遭到英国政府的召见，但他却还反过来批评说，这是这是对中国的一个恶意的诋毁。 那甚至还说英国应该要加强对华记者的教育。那这个怎么看待这个现在在中国发生的白纸运动，以及现在中国官员在国际上的言行？谢谢。
Okay, translation for that. Thanks.
So my question is this: recently, a BBC reporter, while reporting the white paper movement in Shanghai, was beat up by Chinese police. And for this incident, the Chinese ambassador to the UK, Zheng Zeguang, was asked to make explanations. However, he said that this was a malign allegation regarding China, and also even said that there should be more education for foreign reporters in China. So my question is, what is your view on the white paper movement in China, and what is your view on the words and actions of Chinese officials internationally?
So taking the reverse order, first of all, I would like to express how enormously brave all those are taking part in protests across China. And we have seen protests against Xi Jinping's zero-COVID policy for well over a year now across China, but we have never seen such a concerted effort taking place in such wide geography, and also where there has been clear political dissent expressed and frustration with Xi Jinping. The bravery of those people is enormous, given the surveillance totalitarian state that Xi Jinping runs, and the implications that we know that those who raise their voices face. So I lend my voice to them without question. With Ed Lawrence, I reached out to him as soon as I'd been aware that he'd been arrested, illegally arrested, and taken off the streets of Shanghai. My question to the Chinese government is, since when is beating someone a way to protect them from COVID-19? Because that was their claim, that taking him off the streets would protect him from COVID. I'm aware that he was beaten, and it is unacceptable. And the Foreign Secretary was absolutely right to make the point that we will always stand up for press freedom. And that's what we must do as democracies around the world. And we cannot ever see journalists beaten for doing what is exactly their job and what is absolutely right.
Okay, excellent. Do translation for the part. Thanks.
那首先呢，我想要对在中国进行这些抗争的民众表达敬意，因为我觉得他们非常的勇敢。他们上街，我们看到过去超过1年呢，因为习近平的清零政策呢，很多人都不满意，都在抗争。但是这是我们第一次看到这么大规模的抗争，还有对于习近平执政不满的这些异议出现了。那在一个威权受到这样严密监控的社会里面，能够站出来发声，我觉得是非常勇敢的一件事。那我也要表达我对他们的支持。 那我们英国的记者在上海受到非法的逮捕，并且受到殴打，所以我要问中国政府的问题是：想要保护人民不受新冠疫情肺炎的这个侵害，为什么要做的事情却是殴打这些民众呢？这些民众只是上街想要捍卫他们自己的权利。那我相信英国的我们的外交大臣讲的是对的，我们要持续守护我们的新闻自由，还有我们的民主。我们不能够容许任何记者在做他们的工作，在做对的事情的时候受到暴力的对待。
And I think finally the ask of many of us on the committee to Xi Jinping would be to introduce the vaccines that the people of China need and deserve. When I speak to my friends living in China, when you listen to those on the street, and when you listen to the international community, vaccines would allow China to open up and to return to normal life, and that is what we all want for the people of China. When it comes to Confucius Institutes, that has been a conversation throughout our visit. Taiwan has a fantastic goal of achieving bilingual by 2030, and the British Council is doing a fantastic job in supporting them to do so. So that is something we are absolutely keen to support them with. In the UK, we want to improve our Mandarin capability. In the UK, we want to better understand all Mandarin-speaking communities. And so we want to see an improvement in that. And I very much hope that the Taiwanese government will be able to step forward and put forward an initiative that would allow them to backfill Confucius Institutes and offer the choice that British students deserve when they choose to study Mandarin within British universities, and also to replace the current Chinese government-run system of Mandarin education within secondary schools. So that absolutely was a conversation, but I'm not the government, so it's not for me to strike agreements with the Taiwanese government, but just to offer the hand of friendship.
Thank you. Translation.
那么我们也外委会也一直在呼吁习近平应该要提供有效的疫苗给他们的人民，因为我们不论是我跟在中国的友人，或者是在街上的这些中国民众，还有从这个国际社群的声音，我们都听到说中国人民需要有效的疫苗才可以恢复正常生活，而我们也都非常希望中国人民可以恢复正常生活。那么至于孔子学院的问题，我们的访团这次来到台湾，也聚焦在讨论中文，还有台湾的2030双语政策。台湾2030双语政策，我们觉得非常的棒，而且我们的英国文化协会也给予台湾方面非常多的支持。同时，我们英国也非常希望推动我们的中文学习。我们希望跟全世界所有的华语社群有更深的互动还有了解，所以在这方面我们要持续推动中文学习。也希望台湾政府可以在这方面更加施力，让英国的这个不只有孔子学院，而是我们英国的学生在学华语的时候，大学生可以有更多的华语教学机构的选择。也希望呢，我们英国的中学现在的华语教育其实是由中国政府所主办主导的，我们也希望这个情势可以被扭转。那当然，我并不是代表我们的政府，我不是政府本身，所以我这趟来没办法跟台湾政府达成任何的协议，但是我们来表达我们的意见，还有我们跟台湾政府友好合作的这个意愿。
And finally, on the question of our visit, no, the Chinese ambassador and his embassy did not reach out to me ahead of this visit, nor did they reach out to me ahead of our initial planned visit to February. And I would be disappointed if the Chinese ambassador has criticised us for coming here, because dialogue matters. And I can't believe that the Chinese government would criticise dialogue because they themselves believe that dialogue and keeping all avenues of dialogue are open. And on that note, I would urge the Chinese government to remove the sanctions they've placed on British parliamentarians, because we are open for dialogue and discussion, and we would always want to have dialogue with all partners to avoid miscalculations and to be able to make clear our own views. And so I would urge them to remove those sanctions on British parliamentarians and to embrace dialogue whenever it happens around the world, because it can only be helpful in terms of maintaining stability around the world, which I'm sure is our shared ambition.
那关于这个中国大使馆呢，我们当初2月要来，还有这次要来之前呢，都没有接到他们任何的这个通知。那如果他真的警告我们不要来，我会觉得非常的失望，因为呢，我们应该要进行更多的对话，我们不能够去批评对话。所以我也希望那个中国方面能够 能够移除对于我们英国国会议员的这些这个限制，让我们可以到世界各地，让我们到中国去进行更多的对话。我们要拥抱跟世界国际社群有更多的对话的机会。
Okay, thank you. I think if there's no more questions, so please join me in thank you, Her Honourable, Madam Member of the Parliament, Alicia Keys, Madam Chairperson, also of the Commons Foreign Affairs Committee, for her time and her leadership and making her historical first ever trip to Taiwan. Thank you so very much.
谢谢 everyone.
Thank you, 谢谢.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll take a picture, if that's okay, with permission. Yes, okay. 那秘书长要不要一起来？你到那右边来。So British. Take the mask off. Excellent. Yeah. 谢谢大家参加今天记者会，谢谢。